Hello, everyone. Welcome to Revelation Now. We are going to be talking today about different worldviews on the apocalypse, some ancient, some modern, and how it is something that is in the consciousness of man, humanity. It goes so far back. And it's not that the scriptures, the Bible, even the book of Revelation, that they're alone in this. But it's also, there is a witness to this stuff outside the scriptures. And even the human heart is aware of an end, but it's not really an end. A reckoning maybe is another word. Judgment is another word. But the word we're going to look at today is the word visitation. This idea that, again, that something's going to show up. The arrival. I think there was a movie even called Arrival with that exact ideology of something showing up. And there was a time when atheism was the deal in science towards the modern 1800s, 1900s for a while. But even as we've come into the 2000s, those that would claim atheism, because of what we've been learning about DNA and how there's a programming to it, they're even now all the more saying something had to be involved with us creation-wise. That if there's no God, something else still got involved. And maybe they're going to come back.
Other.
Yeah.
Something other.
Yeah. I remember the one fellow reading it. He said he didn't believe in God, but he believed that advanced intelligence could have probably seeded Earth, and that we came from that.
That's an interesting word.
That's a good loophole.
Very biblical word. Seeded.
Sounds familiar.
With it. So I'm Jeff Wilson, your host in this, and we're excited. I just enjoy so much the Word of God and its connection with culture and what's happening in our world. It's been talking the truth, what we believe is the truth, and where we are and what's happening. And what is this word visitation? We're taking it from actually 1 Peter 2. And he talks about in verse 11, talking to the believers and calls them sojourners and pilgrims here, like what last night she was saying, ministered there teaching, Pastor Chick, on the passing through is a good line too. And he's talking about your conduct and, straight and narrow. Then at the end he talks about God in the day of visitation, a glorifying of God. I think the word day could be capitalized with a capital D. We've talked about that as well. Glorify God in the day of visitation. How do you guys think of the word visitation? How do you define it? That has to mean over here, right? Literally showing up?
Well, it's also something beyond what's happening right now. It's not. It's a separate occasion.
Yeah.
There's something else going to happen.
C.S. Lewis
Extra.
calls it the invasion.
Yeah.
That was his terminology for it. The invasion. When a time of, that's a strong term. Or when the maker of the play shows up, then the curtain comes down.
Right.
When he comes out what was it? I forget how he said it.
The director?
Yeah, when the main guy shows up.
Playwright?
When he shows up on the stage.
It's over.
I think it's a playwright.
Yeah, it's really, that's the end. The guy who started all this is. Yeah.
Curtain call.
The curtain call. Yeah, that's a good one on it.
Yeah, I see it that way too. It's something future for sure. The language there in 1 Peter. It's not, this one hasn't happened yet. It's coming.
We would know, right?
Right. And there's a little note actually here in the Legacy Standard Bible. If you click on the YouVersion Bible app, it says, "Or Christ's coming again in judgment." So there's that thought there too of
That's with the line.
with that last line of verse 12 in 1 Peter.
They
2.
switched it to Christ.
Mm-hmm. Well, you glorify God in the day of visitation. So it's Christ's visitation that you will glorify God as a result of Jesus' return, imminent return.
The word visitation, you said it was there. It's also there in Luke 19.
It is, which is fascinating, which was his first time he came. It talks about in Luke 19 that he's lamenting over Jerusalem. And he's saying that will level you to the ground and your children within you, and they will not leave in you one stone upon another, because you did not recognize the time of your visitation.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Because he even mentions earlier the things that make for your peace. Like there was a peace deal that didn't work.
Yeah. Well, they didn't recognize their Messiah.
It didn't.
Well, it's true that the visitation in connection with judgment, that's all through the Bible.
Absolutely.
Which
but
is
that
a
one
little
wasn't
confusing.
that.
There's
Yeah.
no, but there's a future one, but there's also it keeps happening.
Well,
like think of Jonah. That was a visitation from God,
To stop it.
To stop it.
Yeah.
It was an intervention. That's what these. It's like
That's so
here's
good.
your chance. There's a visitation coming. You guys, here's your warning.
Do you think some of these
And they got out of it.
They did. They repented. They literally did.
Yeah.
And Jesus even said Sodom and Gomorrah would have too if he had showed up to their town.
Yeah. Yeah.
If he
In a
would have
sense,
showed up and preached, they would have repented.
Jesus was like a Jonah for the whole planet.
That's good.
That's what he's saying. Your
That's really good.
visitation, I came to get you guys
That's
out
amazing.
of this.
He fulfilled
The
like
thing that's
all of
coming.
them, like Moses and Elijah and
But
Jonah. He was like a type of,
He specifically points to those Noah, Sodom and Gomorrah, these instances of visitation.
Yeah, and he told a couple of the towns they're going to have it better than you. What's up with that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're going to have it better than you in the day of. And again, it's that day deal.
Yeah,
It's almost like God can't he can't himself get away from it.
Well, and Jeff, you talked about in one of our earlier podcasts, this day of visitation, this future one, that's the one everyone expected.
Yeah.
The Luke 19 one was the shocker. The
Yeah,
Jesus
it's
coming
like I almost
as a
felt
suffering
like,
servant was like, what's
like
this?
I would want, like if I was talking to someone, Orthodox Jew who believes in the Messiah coming, I'm almost like with them, like, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. He didn't come.
Yeah.
He did not come.
Like you thought.
He didn't fulfill all
He
those
did not
things.
come in these prophecies.
Parameters. Yeah.
You're exactly right. He didn't. But he did come in these.
Yeah.
And that wasn't, it's still to this day. We, as Christians, we kind of don't get that, but because, he came the first time. It's like no big deal, easy.
Yeah.
But even the disciples didn't understand it. They immediately jumped to the other prophecies after he was raised from the dead.
Yeah, Acts 1, even post.
Like even the cross still didn't, and that took time. If you look at it closely, they did not fully really understand the cross, even after he was raised from the dead. That's why Paul came along. The Lord had to there was a revealing. Like at first, if you listen to Peter, his talk was more like, "You killed him, God raised him from the dead." You know, he doesn't really talk forgiveness of sin, that he was our substitute, the in-depth part of it. I mean, that really took time to come to a fullness of, the lamb, the sacrificial system, the signs that were a part of that, the suffering servant. It took time. It was almost like Peter's message was Nana Boo Boo. You killed him, God raised him from the dead. Nana, boo, boo. Now get ready, because he is coming, the Messiah, in the kingdom.
The judgment.
Yeah. Then they go into the prophecies they always knew from childhood.
Well, Peter is a good example of what we're reading right here,
Messiah
too.
coming.
And it was progressive with him, too, because then First Peter has a certain tone. And then by Second Peter, he's explaining, well, guys, actually a day with the Lord's like 1,000 years. So he was, it was like a process for him as well.
Yeah.
And they're always looking back through Scripture. That's why it's so important to just get into the Old Testament because you see it from the very beginning. It's just all tethered together. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and this whole part of it too is that it was going to come to the Gentiles. That took Peter time too to get.
Yeah.
Even later on,
To the
remember he
nations
wouldn't
of-
eat with them again. This was years later after being a spirit-filled, tongue-talking Christian.
No, he was the one who
He pulled away. He got
who
afraid.
crossed the bridge with Cornelius. He's the one who.
Yeah,
He was there for the Gentile Pentecost.
Yeah.
but then he still messed up in that area later on because of fear of men. Remember, they showed up. Paul talks about it in Galatians. Had to confront Peter to his face.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But that was another mystery.
And
what was cool about
nothing's
how the
changed
Lord
there.
led Paul was into the mystery deal.
This revealing, apocalypsing.
The mystery of the wall, the partition between Jew and Gentile. The cross also broke that down. And that's really what we've been living in. The gospel to the Gentiles for 2,000 years.
So that
Until the number comes in.
yes, so
quote,
that in this age of grace,
yeah,
this light has gone to all of us.
yeah, a certain number. And then even Jesus said it'll be preached in all the world, and then the end shall come. And again, what is all that? It comes back to the visitation. Has to be. When the director,
the
the
stepping onto the
playwright
stage.
comes onto the stage part, then it's a whole different deal. And then we'll be glad the living by faith, because you really, once you're seeing, there's so much. Is there so much faith? You know what I mean? You're knowing. Then it's a different deal.
Yeah.
You know,
It is
blessed
faith.
are those who don't see and yet believe. But then after the visitation, it's just all seeing.
But there had to be so many times through history where it seemed like this is it.
No, I've got a
This-
list of it.
Tomorrow.
This is the. I've been thinking about, even when you read like C.S. Lewis or Tolkien, living through World War II. That had to seem like
Yeah.
this is the
I
end,
read-
guys.
Can't we?
Nuclear
yeah, we
bombs
cannot
and the
continue.
whole annihilation. It was just like
Brother Hagen said
this has got to be it.
Brother Hagen
Like,
said
I would have thought that.
Brother
was
Hagen
it.
said he preached that Hitler was the Antichrist and it was the end.
He-
Brother
he
Hagen
seemed-
did.
Sure
Kenneth
seemed like
Hagin.
it.
You know what? It's amazing how close he came to being
Right.
the Antichrist. For real. I saw someone lined it up, all the Antichrist scriptures with Hitler's life. It was like,
It's
how was
almost
he
like
not?
it was an attempt.
It was an attempt. Oh,
They
it gave me
attempt
chill
to
bumps.
do it.
It gave me chill bumps.
But that
it
goes
was
all
like
the way
that,
back
that
to
pressure tried to make it happen.
Nebuchadnezzar. I mean, they're like,
Yeah, and to
they've been
Jesus.
trying to do it.
First John,
That was tried to make it happen.
2,000 years ago, First John, he wrote that the spirit of Antichrist is now
It's
here.
already there.
Like it
yeah.
was premature though, and
like,
it got shut
and you
down.
see it throughout the
I
centuries.
just
Like,
read that there's a verse that says it's holding it back. There's
Yeah, that's
something
in
holding it
Thessalonians.
back.
That's the rapture. I'll be talking about it Sunday.
But it's almost like there's a spirit or there's something holding it.
It's
from
believed it's-
accomplishing its goal.
It's the
quite
Holy
yet.
Spirit in the church. The one thing that's
wild.
holding it back. That's why we believe. There's many that believe. I believe pre-tribulation rapture it's the rapture that's the trigger. That's what's holding it back.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you're talking about the Old Testament, like the Sodom and Gomorrah. It's like they had to get those people out first.
Correct.
The
There
remnant,
was a
the-
rescue mission to get them
Remember
out.
Lot's wife,
and
yeah.
But that happens over and over. That happens in Jerusalem when it gets sacked and they get taken over. The same thing. There's this vision where it's wild. The angel comes and marks them all of who's going to get saved. It's crazy. It's that same theme over and over. Like, separate yourself because I'm coming. This is going to get judged. It's going down. You
Yeah.
need to get out of the way. Like, it's wild.
That's part of the visitation, because you did not know the time of your visitation, which had happened. The visit was happening.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it was coming. They didn't recognize it one day coming. It had happened.
he was standing in front of them,
The
speaking.
visitation had happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
their
amongst the midst.
You know what's funny? In Jerusalem, it was to surrender to Babylon. They wouldn't do it. He was telling them to surrender, and they just kept thinking they could pull it off. It's a weird
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
It's a funky one. Where he said, just go with them. Just let them take it.
Yeah,
'Cause
there
you-
are
you
there
already
are where
blew it.
the Lord would tell them just don't resist because you don't have the backup.
You already lost.
Yeah, it's already over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But that was a
That
great,
happened with Moses too when he told them, or yeah, it was Moses. Told him, no, don't try now.
Yeah, that was a grace.
Yeah.
That was their visitation. Get out of the way.
Okay, then they
here.
said, okay, now we'll go back up into the promised land. He's like, no, you can't go now. He said, you can't. And they tried, and they got whooped.
They go, yeah. they
and
got beat.
speaking of that whole like messianic expectation, that Peter's referencing Isaiah 10, right?
It's what you said, and that is definitely visitation,
Yeah.
judgment, right?
Yeah. Now, what will you do in the day of visitation, and in the devastation which will come from afar? To whom will you flee for help, and where will you leave your glory?
Yeah, who can stand? A lot of the day of the Lord prophecy similar in the visitation.
So who is he talking to? Is he talking to Babylon at that point?
Isaiah 10. I'm not entirely
I'm
sure.
pretty sure that's who he's talking to. Because it
Yeah.
the prophets go through first. They're talking to Israel. Their destruction's coming
Yeah.
from Babylon. Then
The Lord's going to use Babylon.
Then Babylon
take you
gets
out.
judged.
But
Then
hey,
they're telling them.
Don't
they're-
get too excited here,
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, I know what I was going to say to you, Jason. You were saying about how there's been, like with Jonah, Nineveh, there's been these local judgments that happen
Right.
that aren't universal. We
Yeah.
believe this visitation talk day of the Lord is a whole deal. It's a universal deal. But don't you think some of it is the scriptures talk about where the Lord said he came down to Abraham like with Sodom and Gomorrah to see if it's gotten to a certain level.
Yes.
And if it has to be shut down.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what it is. It's like a natural deal.
It is.
Fallen natural. It's not that he's even doing it. He's not going to stop it
In fact,
because it's gone too far. It's crossed lines. I can't stop it.
There-
It's not that he's physically.
there is, in the way they
At times.
they describe it, even with Israel, it seems like it's all about Israel, and it is. But there's this other view of it that they were the tool of judgment for the people of Canaan, because there's at one point where they're going to go in, and he says, "Not yet."
Yeah.
They haven't reached the point
Yes,
of judgment.
right.
They call it a cup. The cup's
Yeah.
not full yet.
Yeah.
And then later on, the
Yeah.
cup is overflowing with. They cross the line.
Yeah.
And then it's like
They're bonus time.
now
That has to be.
it's over.
Yeah. Who is it in the New Testament talks about that? Oh, it's Romans. Storing up extra wrath in the day of the deal. Yeah, but you see the local, and I think it has to do with real world rules. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you're saying you see it.
Real world rules and regulations.
You see
Like
it outside of the Bible.
That's
too,
what
right?
I've said that before. If guys, this is the most important thing ever because it's real. It's not just virtual reality. We're not just characters in a fake thing, a fantasy type deal. I know there's physical programming to the body and things like that, but the soul, the spirit, we're real people, real beings making real decisions here.
And this life matters.
Yeah, so much.
There's value.
So much.
Purpose.
Yeah. And what we have to watch, I know, like many, it's hard to keep away from the undercurrents of woe in end times stuff.
What do you mean?
The visitation, like if you look at it, there's two sides going on here. Like I just was reading because I'm talking about the rapture on Sunday. This one guy was talking about the number of evangelicals that's had therapy over their fears of the rapture.
Yeah.
That
Why
he
wouldn't
he
you?
was talking about
It's like the apocalypse at any
the
moment.
evangelicals that had to try to overcome this crazy anxiety, fear.
I get it, man.
But yet, you read the scriptures, there's a yay, there's a triumph, and we're like when the church is raptured and it hits the glory part and seating the throne, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And there's rewards. We miss all the verses on the rewards that's given out during the end time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kind, and then evil really is put down, and woohoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, it becomes all gloom.
Well, just
But there's two sides going on here. It's
Yeah.
like, it would be like the Bengals win, everyone's still afraid. Like they
Yeah.
win the Super Bowl, and it's like, oh.
no, but it's in our consciousness, in our world, and culture, and art. Just watch.
I think how it's been so portrayed
watch episode
with
1.
zombies and stuff.
Just watch episode 1 of The Leftovers on HBO.
That's a Rapture theme.
Yeah.
All the people disappear. Remember?
Yeah, episode 1. It's just chaos. It's instant chaos. It's
is
horrifying.
sure.
It's terrifying. Just in an instant, like
Here, yeah. But it is true. I'm not trying to deny that there's no crazy gloom part of it, because I believe it is the trigger that opens the door. People totally will be open to a world leader. Like, we want answers right now.
Because of
It's in that show, too.
instability.
Yes.
Just, I don't care. Just somebody.
I mean, let's
take
say
control.
it really does happen.
That's what it. That
A
happens
billion
over
people,
and over.
billion people are gone.
Yeah.
What now? And I've watched some films trying to portray it, movies. Some aren't too bad. Left Behind was the whole deal with Kirk Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
He did those. Part of it. But here, so like we're talking about the Visitation, how it is in the Christian faith. But I was looking at different ones. One of the first warnings of the apocalypse they have found on Assyrian clay tablets in around 2800 BC. And listen to this line that they have on it, the tablet. Our earth is degenerate in these latter days. There are signs that the world is speedily coming to an end. Bribery and corruption are common. Children no longer obey their parents. Every man wants to write a book, and the end of the world is evidently approaching. This was
Assyrians?
something they found. Yes.
Wow.
Part of the, I don't know why that's a big deal about everyone wanting to write a book. And their books, of course, were the tablets and stuff with that. In 1300,
is it warning talk? They want to warn people.
our earth is
That's why they want to write a
degenerate
book.
in these latter
Make
days.
predictions.
There are signs that the world is speedily coming to an end. Bribery and corruption are common. Children no longer obey their parents. The end of the world is evidently approaching. That's their translation of it. There's a lot more, but that's just one part. It sounds similar.
Yeah.
Paul, the last days, what it's going to be like. The Aztecs, get this, believed that 4 worlds had already existed and been destroyed by the gods. So they were living in the 5th world.
With an impending doom on it.
What number we're in?
They were the 5th try. I'm not sure. 4 worlds had already existed. That sounds pre-Adamite.
Yeah.
Islamic texts, the Quran, indicate that the world will end before being reborn on a day they call the Day of Revelation, or the Day of Resurrection.
Mm.
On this day, all life will be resurrected after being destroyed, and then it will be judged by God.
Pretty close.
Before this day, there will be many minor and major signs indicating that it is approaching. The world will be plunged into chaos during this period, which will be caused by the Masih Ad-Dajjal, the Antichrist.
They have an Antichrist?
They have an Antichrist.
Interesting.
However, the Mahdi, a Messiah, will appear and defeat him,
Dune, Muad'Dib.
starting a period of peace and religious observance. Judaism states that when the world ends, God will bring the Jews back to Israel and restore the house of David and the temple of Jerusalem. The Messiah will then appear in order to help people move into an age of full peace and enlightenment. He will be descended from the line of King David and rule the people of Israel. Everyone will recognize their God as the one true God. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with them as well. And how interesting how we're mixed in.
There's
with that.
always that crossover.
Who will then return all the dead souls to their bodies and awaken them.
where-
This is Old
That's
Testament.
where Peter and Paul and John are getting it from.
A new heaven and earth will be created, and history will be complete once all people return to the Garden of Eden. Of course, we have the book of Revelation that we deal with. The Buddhist version of the end of times is the most relaxed one
What?
and does not involve the world being destroyed. It is predicted that at some point people will start to forget the teachings of the Buddha. They will stop following the 10 wholesome courses of conduct and start following the unwholesome ones, with acts such as murder and theft. People will stop displaying compassion and the teachings of the Dharma will be forgotten. Now get this. However, a new Buddha, the Maitreya Buddha, will be reborn and show people the path to nirvana. Currently, he lives in Tusita heaven, waiting to be born into our world.
Why do they all have a Messiah?
So far, we've got about 3, and all the major ones. Zoroastrianism.
We must need it.
Yeah, Zoroastrianism states that the world will go through 4 different ages and that we are currently in the 4th age. This is Babylon, by the way. This is your Babylon beliefs where they got, this is their deal. Oh, I can't even get into it. It's pretty interesting. It's like a novel.
Zoroastrians?
Zoroastrianism?
Mm-hmm.
It's Zorro. I remember having to look that up. Zorro. They actually do
Makes me
say
think
Zorro.
of Freddie Mercury.
In the first age, good and evil, blah, blah, blah. The third age, this last stage started when Zoroaster, a spiritual leader, was born and continues today. The ancient alien theory guys get into that. He was really,
An alien?
yeah, he was one of those dudes that showed up. The world is believed to last for 12,000 years in total. In the last 3,000 years, the 4th age, 3 saviors will be born at 1,000-year intervals. Where are they getting all that? They will all be born by virgins who bathed in a lake.
Nice.
Oh, man. After this, the world would be closer, so forth and so on. Again, it's still the visitation. A lot of these visitations, though, are messiahs.
Yeah.
That's believed for.
And they're extra. These guys who show up, they're extraterrestrials in a sense. Whether it's the Buddha or the Messiah or Zoroastrians or whatever, it's like some special guy.
The Hindu sacred texts state that the world passes through ages, being destroyed and recreated at the end of each one. At the end of an age, the world is absorbed into the god Vishnu before it is reborn. They also have a final apocalypse and a rebirth as well. They talk about disasters, natural disasters, plagues, famine. But then at the end of this age, the final incarnation of Vishnu will appear. He will come riding on a white horse with a flaming sword and so forth. That sounds interesting on that as well. The day of visitation. The Hopi Indians, North America, as it says here, North America believe that the world is cyclical and has succumbed to catastrophes 3 times before due to people's disregard for the planet and its creator. They have as well, they go into... So we're in the 4th world at the moment. They have different worlds. The first time the world ended due to fire. The second time it was because of ice. And the third time a flood caused it. This was in the article. It says Indians. We know it's Native Americans as well.
That seems to track with like dinosaurs and meteors and ice age and
That's what a lot of
floods
these
and
modern ancient alien guys are saying. They're not even ancient apocalypse guys are saying they mythologize actual events that happen. You know what I mean? Like a meteor. They're calling it these magical terms, but it was like an actual events that happened.
Yeah.
Kind of deal.
What's like even with Sodom and Gomorrah, it's like fire from heaven.
No.
It could just be how they said of lightning. You know, could be that sort of thing.
Volcano.
Or be a volcano.
Pompeii.
Well, yeah, it's like...
Yeah, I remember years ago reading through Revelation, my first instinct was it was all natural. He was seeing influence unseen, and then the seen part's happening. It's not that it actually manifests over here. I don't believe that now, but that was my instinct.
Yeah.
Like all of it, Revelation is just natural stuff, like helicopters and wars.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and guns and
He's trying to
volcanoes.
describe it.
Yeah, he's describing it with angel talk and things, but that's just unseen.
Now
It
you
could be
realize
stuff
it's
happening behind the scenes.
More symbolic and
Yeah.
unseen.
But now I
unseen
believe
realm.
it's really showing up. I just keep coming back
Like
to
the
it.
evil part, the unseen showing up.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the
Big time.
different demonic things and angels.
Like swarms.
Yeah,
Swarms
it's
of
really
demons
showing
and
up.
like intense.
In 1958, White Feather, a Hopi spiritual leader of the Bear Clan, he came out with what he called the 9 signs of the end of the fourth world, knowledge that had passed down from his ancestors. So you find it even in North America,
Right.
throughout the Native American tribes. They all had some form of this right here.
There's something in our
Is that just a
Some
collective
form of- what
collective
is up?
consciousness?
That's what we're saying today. It's just recognizing that there might be some who kind of say, I don't know about all this talk, and or even some that would kind of roll their eyes, and you kind of understand it does sound very fantastical.
sure.
And not just that,
But yet,
it's constant.
But
Like
why
we're
is
talking
it
about
there?
ancient people been saying this forever.
Yeah,
And we're still here.
that's what I'm trying to get. say today.
Thousands of
Yeah,
years.
like I get it.
This visitation talk. And the last one that was taken the most seriously was 2012.
Was that Aztec?
Was the Mayans.
Oh, Mayan. Yeah.
But they believe now it was a misinterpretation. That they didn't mean it ending in judgment, but it was just going to be a recycle going on.
I'll be honest. Back in the I thought a couple times.
It was coming.
Well, I mean, not necessarily that it was coming, but it made you think, like, this is weird. I mean, what's this all about?
I know what gave me pause was 2 things in the past few years. 9/11 felt endish.
Wonder why that.
I mean, totally pause. The day the earth stood still type language talk showed up.
That was
that day.
fantastical
Yeah.
thing that happened. Really was.
Well, when you see it in entertainment from movies like Arrival, but even in like funny stuff, I always think of the show Parks and Recreation, where they had a community group once a year that said that Zorp was coming back
Yeah.
to destroy everything and
Yeah.
kill everybody, and they'd predict it, and then it wouldn't happen, so they would schedule different
And
time.
I think if you were to personally get caught up in that, and then it's a bust, you would definitely have some reservations
Sure.
about any of this talk. You know,
Right.
like, come on, guys. You know,
But it's
I've
like
been through that.
the thousands year setup.
The problem
Like, uh-oh.
the problem is it's there. I mean, if you're going to look at the
That's
Bible,
what I've been
at
saying.
least.
Why we're talking about it and
Consciousness.
teaching it even here at Life Point is because I feel like it's a total disservice if we don't.
Yeah, you have to
If
totally
we don't
ignore
talk
it.
about this
Well,
sooner or later. I know we like the felt needs stuff series, and it's important and it's good, but man, this is really
Well, and full circle back to 1 Peter. It's what he's saying. He's saying, be alert, be ready,
yeah.
be
But to me,
sober-minded.
it's not just a doom thing. To me, there is a part of it that's exciting, knowing that it's not going to be like this forever, in a
Yeah,
good
that's-
way. In a good way, like thank God.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's an ancient thought too. The Psalms over and over again. Lord, how much longer?
yeah.
How much longer? All throughout Revelation. Lord, how much longer?
And maybe that's part of the collective consciousness of people seeing and experience life on planet Earth, going, "This isn't right.
Well, and
This is not the way.
not
this
that
should
we
be."
don't have our issues and illnesses and all the and struggles and all that kind of stuff, but for the most part, us in this room and those listening to the podcast and part of Life Point Church in America, we're super blessed. We've got pretty awesome lives that
We do.
aren't the case for a vast majority of people on planet Earth.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
living under total tyranny,
You're
gonna say,
you're gonna
on.
say what the first century church, Maranatha,
Yeah.
Lord, come.
Mhm.
Let's get this going.
Yeah.
Maranatha.
The actual Aramaic is
I
Maranatha.
know.
Maranatha.
But that's
I'm a
the English,
stickler.
the English version. I'm just saying how.
Maranatha, yeah.
Maranatha. Or Maranatha. Maranatha. Lord, it's come
Maranatha.
quickly, isn't it, or is it just come?
Lord come, I believe.
Yeah,
It's literally just Lord come.
with it.
Lord come now.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Because
is that
there's an
meant
expediency.
as
That's how it ends, the book of
Judgment talk?
Revelation.
come and get those guys, or is that come and save me talk?
I think it's yes.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah,
I think
just
it's like
come,
all
return.
of it, but like I'm trying to tell you guys, it's almost always 90% it feels gloomy.
Yeah.
That's why I even told our church, "You sure you want to?"
do
I
this.
said, "Who wants to?" Because everybody started
Like
pushing.
78% had their hands up.
Wants
It's like,
to
are you
do
sure?
the Book of Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo! And they're almost excited, and it's like,
Please stop.
but I want to say too, though, there's a whole triumphant side somehow gets lost.
Yeah.
Like there's no evil. Like only innocence going to get judged.
Mm-hmm.
Like little flowers are going to get crushed.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite.
No, like
All throughout Revelation,
in judgment, all the poor innocence and purity is going to get hurt.
Yeah.
no,
All
it's,
the little innocent flowers. Like there's no evil and there's
But
there's
that's
no
what that-
need for real justice.
Even I
to
was
hit.
talking about the cup being filled
Yeah.
when the judgment comes.
Yeah.
What, because people look at the Old Testament and they're like, how did they go in and just kill all these people like they were totally innocent?
Right.
They weren't.
That's the one fella who's
They were
a-
not. What these
Many of the
societies were
apologists,
doing
yeah.
were over the top.
the sacrifice of the children.
Yes.
It was so nuts. And then the one fellow, the apologist I follow, Crossview. It's so good. But he gets at, he goes to colleges and answers all their questions. That always comes up. The evil God who
Yep.
kills all the people.
How could you?
And he starts showing them. But then you get mad that he doesn't go in and stop it.
right. How could
Then
you let this happen?
Yeah, how can he let it happen?
Mhm.
And he goes into all the historical facts with the cultures back then, what was going on, that God was having them stop.
Mm.
And it totally gets silent
Yeah.
in the room. Like, oh.
And it's weird because that stuff those people were doing that brought judgment, that's what infects Israel.
Yeah.
Those practices.
Yeah, they
Those-
wanna
that's what
get-
ends up happening to Israel. They end up sacrificing their children, doing all
Yeah.
this bonkers stuff, and then they get judged too.
Right.
Crazy.
In the day of visitation. So we've looked at, and we're going to end here with, because in 1 Thessalonians 4, like I'm saying, there must be a way too that when you do talk about the day of the Lord and then the day of visitation and the judgment and the justice and also the triumph part, and the evil is overcome and things are set right.
Yeah.
And there is a new deal that's coming. The lion will lie down with the lamb, and there'll be no more death and the tears and
every tear wiped away.
and the pain. I mean, there is a side to look at, because in 1 Thessalonians 4, he says, therefore comfort one another with these words.
Mm.
Comfort one. You ready for these words?
Yeah.
The comfort
Give
that
it
he's
to me.
talking about? For this we say to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will by no means precede those who are asleep. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up, raptizo, that's where we get rapture in Latin, shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And thus we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore comfort
Yeah.
one another
And you think part of
these words.
part of that comfort is like in the endurance to keep going. Like
I
this
think-
is not going to be forever.
I think,
what you're
yes,
having to do, this work here on earth, what you're doing,
Yeah.
you can do it.
I think it's part to what Tyler was just saying. We don't fully understand the times which they were living. The pressure that was there, the persecution that was there,
Yeah.
and how there is a degree of blessing that we are experiencing right now. You know, that we kind of like, really? Do we want it to end?
Well, I got a great example. My boy, he's 20 years old, and when I first started talking to him about what we're going to be doing this summer, he was completely not on board at all. Like what do you mean end times? Like things are going great. Things are
Right.
The earth's awesome. Life's great. Like, what are you talking about end times? Life's beautiful. I love my life. This is great.
Yeah.
That's his experience right now.
Yeah.
You know, he's a awesome, blessed, filled with the love of Christ kid.
Well,
and
when I was a teen running around myself, I remember thinking, man, the whole thing for us back in the day was, can't we at least get married first?
yeah, but
Didn't we have a family first?
Didn't people say that to Jesus? Can I just real quick
Oh, that's
bury
true.
my dad, and can I real quick just get married? And yeah.
And in fact, that's part of his warning to them, that the wedding feast. It's the people whose lives are going really well who don't come.
Yeah.
they're like, I'm good. I got some stuff.
And we heard it
some
last night
business
too.
stuff
Business
going
as
on.
usual.
I got
Jesus
my
said
business
it
to
would
do,
be totally
my family stuff.
caught off guard.
I'm
like
good.
Everything's in line. What do I have to worry about? Type of deal. The visitation. Comfort one another with these words. So we're going to continue bringing in this thought of what's happening in our world. I know it's a big picture, but we're going to keep talking it because there's just something here. There's a reason from Genesis to Revelation. There's this side of it. It's like a warning. That's for our good. It really is for our good. If anything, even how the scriptures talk about make the most of your life.
Yeah.
Because it says it's appointed unto men once to die. You don't have a appointed time to die. You've got a choice in that. But after that, the judgment. So one way or another, make the most of it here, because even time is like a judgment. Adam put us under the clock. This life is quick. So live it well. Make the most of it. We need to bring that talk back to that series, Wise and Wiser, making the most of the time that we do have. And I believe we are. And I'm just thankful. And a lot of people don't understand, like, I've messed up, I've missed it, I don't want to be judged. Do you realize how awesome it is that how God takes it so personal that you've believed in his son?
You're winning.
That
more than you realize.
Yeah, you have done a big thing just right there.
The biggest thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He who believes, John said. Hey, we'll see you again next time. Thanks for listening.